ساکت میشم تا سوالات بیاد که من اونجا باز فارسی میپرم وسط. ببخشید.
خواهش Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. History of early Shia Islam in Iran. This picture is from Isfahan. Masjid Sheikh Lutfullah is kind of also a symbol of Shiism or expansion of Shiism in Iran. I start with this verse: "Allazina amanu wa hajaru wa jahadu fi sabilillah wa amwalihim anfusihim wa azama darajatan indallah ulaika humul fawzun." Those who believe and have left their homes and striving with their wealth and their lives in God's way are of much greater worth in Allah's sight. There are they who are triumphant. The reason I do that, you see the expansion of Shia Islam in Iran or beyond that, even Pakistan or other places, is really by the works of individuals, which maybe at that time they didn't think what the effect of the work will be. Very small thing or gradual work. They sacrificed for their life. They even immigrated and they spent from their money. And then very slowly and gradually, Shia Islam spread in Iran. I wish I could go more the full history. I mean, the idea was I do the mini series. I had another idea in mind. Still, I have that my idea in mind. But because the Thanksgiving is next week, I thought, and that question was that maybe about one lecture. I have to see what happens with the question, how much we go, maybe continue on this line or we go to the other line. But just I want you to have this in mind. Now, kind of some clarifications we need to do regarding the topic. First, how early, really, I really don't intend to go more than first 4 centuries, maybe, or beginning of the greater occultation. But even at that, I'm not sure fully I can go today. And then, the history is complex. After the 4th century to the Mughal invasion, then after Mughal invasion to the Safavid dynasty, and then after Safavid dynasty. So these are all the stages of the spread of Shia Islam in Iran. And then we were talking about Shia Islam. Also, we know that Shia Islam has branches, and the 3 main branches which have survived are Imamis, Zaydis, and Ismailis. And we naturally focus on Imamis or Asnasharis, but the history of the spread of Shia Islam actually depends on the 2 other branches too. And interestingly, maybe before the Mughal invasions, Ismailis have more role. Apparently, if you go to the surface, Ismailis are more active, more influential, more about that. And which I was not going to go through that at all because it's very complicated and make it different. But I think knowing the history of Zaydis is essential too. When you're discussing Imamis, I think Zaydis should be discussed. They interact together. For example, I give something ahead. Buya dynasty, which is very important for establishing Shiism and even both Iraq and Iran, is originally there was Zaydis, but then they converted to Imamis. This is not the only case. But again, I'm thinking tonight we will not have time to reach Imamis. So, but I think Zaydis. It's important to discuss them together, but for now, we focus on Imamis. And then the other title could have been, the way I'm talking more accurately, early history of Shia Islam among Iranians. Because that's the point. Whether our focus maybe is the present day Iran and the history of the spread of Shiism in Iran, proper Iran or Iranian plateau, is a little bit different from what happened inside Iraq. So, because when the Islamic army invaded Sasanian Empire, that empire was consist of 2 parts. The main present day proper Iran, the Iranian plateau, west of the mountains, Zagros mountains, but also you have the Iraqi basin, those Mesopotamia. There is more complicated. Iranians lived over there, Arabs were living over there, maybe the majorities were not Iranian speaking, even in time of Sasanis. So the story over there is a little bit different. And also the other question is the Shiism before the Caliphate of Imam Ali alayhi salam, which is an interesting topic. I'm not going to go through that. Much we've discussed is all after that. It doesn't mean that There was no Shiism before Imam Ali alayhi salam, but it wasn't related to Iran and Iranians. But the more big important distinction is between political Shia versus religious Shia. There were people have a supporter of Imam Ali or have some inclination toward Ahlul Bayt, or at least they were anti-Umayyad or anti-Caliphate. Uh, but their views, they didn't look to the Imams, Imam Ali as Imam, as we do as a religious Shia. So there were even Sunnis, even maybe they said, for example, Ibn al-Hadid is famous that said that some of Mu'tazilis, they thought even Imam Ali should have been the first caliph. It was better he had been instead of Abu Bakr. But they are not looking to uh, Imam Ali as Imam. They don't believe that Prophet, according to Nas and Messiah, chose Imam Ali as Imam. So a little bit distinction and separation between political Shia and religious Shia should be done, because we want to look people who were religiously Shia, really look to the Imams as Imams. But the history is intertwined, and then actually when the political Shia spread, or at least the political Shia, you can look the idea that they thought Al-Ahlul Bayt should be the ruler. Caliphate should go not just to Quraysh, but to Ahlul Bayt. Actually, Abbasid revolution was an example. We go over there. And then we have some of the Imams of Ahl Sunnah, Hanafi, Abu Hanifa, and I think even Shafi, and some of them, they support this idea. Abu Hanifa, I'm 100% sure. I mean, essentially, Abbasid saw themselves Ahlul Bayt. So this mixture of political Shia and religious Shia, be careful about it. Our goal is to reach religious Shia, but let's have to in mind. The sources, Dr. Rasul Jafari has the best book for now. It's very comprehensive. It's in Farsi, so you see it covers the beginning to the Safavi. Much of the stuff in it is in it, at least the facts. But I think he himself would a little bit write it differently, or have some different views about it, or add something or take away from it. So I kind of complimented with also Wilfred Madelon, which this is one of his early articles. And actually, he not only, as you see, is a book called Religious Trends in Early Islamic Iran. And then there is a chapter on Shiism, which is then Imamiyya and Zaydiyya, and so on. So that's the two main sources which we have. And what I want you to remember today, maybe, is the spread of Shiism, even not only in Iran, generally, is the tale of two cities, Kufa and Qom, and maybe later on Karkh or Baghdad, or Kazim near Baghdad, and Ray near Tehran. Baghdad was important, Ray not as important, but I made it play with the names. And this is today, these two cities again are very important. Najaf and Qom seminaries are there, but this is again, we have a huge gap in between. Qom wasn't important for 1,000 years. After the beginning of the 4th century and the 4th century and the rise of the Baghdad school, Qom eclipsed. And then it is really rised again 100 years ago when Sheikh Abdul Karim Hayari went over there. So it's interesting, fascinating that we come back again, a circle back, and these two cities are very crucial, have been crucial, again very crucial. And then that's when I go digression. Some of the ahadith of end of times are like that. You see they're coached in the terminology of that era, 2nd, 3rd century, 1st century. Sometimes you say, how could it be? But it's like cycling back. And then one tribe. Tonight I spent on one tribe. Even I felt, because I got some introductory material, they deserved more. I hope the latter half of the talk, which may be a little bit longer, 50 minutes or something, will be devoted to them. So that's maybe the main idea. So look, let's see what the situation is after the conquests, because that's Iran come to the story. The early stage, you have the Islamic State, which is established by the Prophet Muhammad by the 9th of Hijrah, but when the Surah At-Tawbah was revealed and the Ayat al-Bara'at was recited by Imam Ali alayhi salam in the Mecca, the Islamic State was started. And that's kind of the limits of the Islamic State, the time Prophet Muhammad. peace be upon him, passed away. And then, after that, the two or three other caliphs start to do some conquests. So you see at the beginning of the Imam Ali Caliphate, the Islamic land or the conquested land covers those orange color too. And Imam Ali didn't do any expansion, any conquest. And then it's after the Imam Ali alayhi salam, with the coming of the Muawiyah and the whole Umayyads, these conquests start to continue. So you have the pink color ones, which is important, and partially in some part of the story is important. Now, what happens is this, two things I want you to know. One of the myth is not that the Iranians immediately after conquest become Muslims. Some say by sword, some say by heart. No, not at all. It's not that immediately the conquest are Muslims. The majority of them, if they hear about Muslims, are the ones which are maybe in the Iraqi basin, between the Mesopotamia, between the two rivers. But in the Iranian plateau, they will not become Muslim. I showed this graph before. Maybe show it to you. It's done by a famous University of Columbia researcher. Is a little bit old, a little bit question could be about it. But look, this is the curve of the conversion to Islam among Iranian, especially Khorasan, Isfahan, Nishabur, those parts. And you see it's peaked, and I'll show you the next graph, will show you better too. It's peaked about 200 Hijrah, 225. It's around the time Imam Reza came to Iran, to Mashhad, Ma'mun's caliphate. So, and then the next graph, it shows better, it's accumulative. Look, what we are talking is even the Karbala is 60 Hijrah, Imam Ali is Caliph is 40 Hijrah, Muawiyah is 40 to 60 after Hijrah, and then the Umayyads downfall is 132 after Hijrah. So you see it start to pick up to conversion. Even by the end of Umayyad is 10% at most Iranians were converted. And actually the conversion, that's you see the whole story, and once I said it before, is despite Umayyads. Umayyads were not encouraging, they were not interested in conversion. Partially all those uprising rebellions start to help the conversions. Abbasids were responsible, other Shia groups, Kharijis, other people. Generally the conversions start much later, and that's the whole dynamic. And then you see it's picking up and speeding up in the time of Ma'mun is 50% past, and as soon at the time of Buyat's coming on power, which is we are talking about beginning of Ghaibat al-Kubra, about 329 Ghaibat al-Kubra starts, then the majority of Iranians now are Muslim. And then Muslim, not necessarily Shia. Actually, the majority become Sunnis, and the percentage of Shias were small. This have in mind. This curve, you can question it some places a little bit ahead before some methodology. His methodology was a little bit indirect, but I think more or less stands. Nowadays, even people from different fields says, look, the way the Arabs conquered rule, let the people live as they are, especially Iranian plateau, the structure kept. Many people was living the way they're doing it, especially in time of Umayyads. Umayyads didn't interest people to convert. So there was Zoroastrian, they would do what they're doing. Just they need to pay the tax. There were some local Arabs, a few in each city, but majority of Arabs, actually, the conquesting army stayed in garrison cities. Actually, they stayed in Kufa, Basra, at the early stage. So that's the decision Omar did, that they don't spread them out, which was kind of sound decision, and is followed. So we'll see that. So one of the first thing is not that you think everybody was Muslim and immediately, and then some become Shia. No, they were not Muslim, and then it was a competition to convert to Shiism. Actually, for a while, maybe time Abbasi, they become kind of Shia, but then things change. If I have time, I'll explain that. The other thing I want to discuss is a little bit Arab structure. Okay, what happens to these Iranians, the one in Iraqi basin or other one, especially the Iraqi one, how when the conquest, how they absorb to the society. For example, the Iranis, which we call them Mawali, those non-Arabs Mawali. Okay, they Mawali could mean somehow servant, slave. Some of the slaves are Mawali, but sometimes you are even freed. Still, you're called Mawali. If your ancestor were Mawali, you're called Mawali. There were some free Iranians from the beginning. During the conquest, there's some groups of Iranian army switch side. I'm not sure it could be fully the Persian or maybe Arab-speaking part of Sasani Empire. There were a few thousand switch side. They were not captured, so they were free, and then they leave with among the Arabs in the Kufa and Basra, and they were called Humara, red, like we call, the Arabs usually call Iranian red, like we call Africans, Americans black or brown, stuff like that color. Because they were whiter and pinkish, they call the Iranians red, then themselves they call darker color. So those were free, but the other ones, how they have to be absorbed? They have to be absorbed to the social structure. And what is the social structure? It was tribal. Even Prophet in Medina wants to do something else, but after Omar and immediately with the Saqifa and after that and the Umayyads, all the tribal structure. Kufa was divided by tribes living in the same quarter. And if you are Irani to be observed in the society, must be associated with the tribe. That's the structure. And then either you were effectively their slave or freed slave or associated to be part of society, be part of the tribe, to receive money, to receive the annual stipends, all the stuff. So Mawali associated to the tribes. And then we can see the nature of the Shia adherence of the tribe can have effect of the Mawali initial stage. If a tribe was more Shia, you anticipate the Mawali, which must be Iranian, be Shia. That's true, or vice versa. So because even the tribe allegiance was mostly based on the leader of the tribe. So that's the part. So I think I always like that. I think we do a brief review about these Arabic tribes to mention them. Look, the Arab tribes are divided two big categories called northern tribes, southern tribes. Northern tribes and southern may be a little misleading because they move, you can move like immigrate now, we all coming to America, but they can call them Adnanites. And yet you see there are two big branches, Muzer and Rabia. These two names just remember, Muzer and Rabia. And you see Quraysh is from Muzer. And then one of these, for example, I want you to remember Tamim is always with rival of Quraysh. And many of these Khawarij were Tamim. And also even Hor was Tamimi. Hor ibn Yazid al-Rahi was Tamimi. And then actually Ibn Ziyad sent at 4,000, the first group he dispatched was Tamim, because Tamims generally didn't like Qurayshis. And Tamims have some ideas from themselves. So, Ibn Ziyad knows which branch, which group sent to surrender Imam Hussein first, because these were the most hostile or at least less friendly you can find. But the one I want you to bring your attention, because these guys have some on us. Abdul Ghais is a very Shia tribe, the Rabia. They really love Imam Ali, and sometimes their devotion goes too far, and some of Ghulat coming from them. But they were mostly Madain, so Madain, I'm not discussing Madain. Madain maybe could be another city, the ancient capital of Iran, but maybe because of Salman. Salman, we heard at least he was a governor of Madain. And this has happened. One of these companions sometimes the good companions goes over there, things started. Lebanese always say, Abu Zar comes to us, the Shia Lebanese. And then because of him, we are Shia. I mean, even I had checked with some scholar, which was Sunni, and then say, have you heard about that? He knows about this stuff. Yeah, he kind of didn't reject it, so it could be true. So, I mean, I'm saying even he himself. So you see, one Abu Zar makes the whole Jabal or those parts some Shias. I'm not saying this story completely true, but we have Abdul Ghais is very Shia. A little bit maybe discuss it. And then the other one is Hanifa. But again, we don't discuss it much. But Imam Ali get married, a Hanafi woman. Muhammad and Hanafi is there. These two tribes from the northern have more Shia tendency. But never the Shia tendencies matches the southern tribes, the Yemeni ones. The Yemeni ones or southern tribes are divided in Bahtanis or divided two big groups, Kahlan and Hemyar. Hemyar, actually, there is not much, and there is a Kalb in them. When Kalb was a long time before Islam immigrated in Syria, they were Christianized. They were backbone of Muawiyah. So this Yemeni tribe was backbone of Muawiyah and Umayyads. But this side, Kahlan, all of the very names you have heard are from them. As a big tribe, Azad, I'm not sure how much you can emphasize this. Azad is a very important. They moved to Khorasan. They lived in Oman for a while. a big branch of them moved to Khorasan, and then these guys are important to conversion of Khorasan to Islam, and some of them Shi, and there were Shis too. There were many supported Imam Ali among them. Also Khazraj, the two famous ones, Azdi, Ghassani, the Lakhmids are Azdi. But the other ones you have heard, Hujj ibn Kandi is this group. Abdul Mujam Maradi, unfortunately, again, is from Yemenis, Nakhai, Malik Ashtar Nakhai, and then Jabir ibn Yazid Jofi or Hatem Tai. But the two I want to emphasize, the two which is, these two, there are Shias in Kanda, other one, but Hamdan is all Shia. Hamdan is the backbone of the army of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And then Husis today in Yemen are from Hamdans. They know, they have in their name. So Hamdan is very, very important. And then the one we are going to emphasize today, mostly later on, is Ash'aris. Ash'ari tribe, which you heard the name of Ash'ari a lot. Some of you looked at theology. We know with Mu'tazila and Ash'ari. It's called Ash'ari because one theologian, which is switched out of Mu'tazila, his name was Ash'ari from the same tribe. The other famous name you heard about Ash'aris is Abu Musa Ash'ari. Abu Musa Ash'ari, the one who when with Muawiyah, the Muawiyah put Qur'ans on the top of spears, and the Khawarij and other people pushed Imam Ali to negotiation. They forced Imam Ali to send him to negotiate with Amr As, and Amr As tricked him. This guy, look, we have somehow look him simpleton. He wasn't that simpleton, or maybe he was deceived because he had greed. He wants to make something for himself. Actually, we'll see that this Ash'ari has some roles in it. I will discuss it later on. So Abu Musa Ash'ari, but this tribe is important to the history of Shiism in Iran. Very important, the most important tribe in Iran. Hamdan is in Yemen, and the Husis are there. They've been there. They then come to Iraq, and Kufa, mostly Hamdans were in Kufa, and so on. Okay. Now, the sentences are from Madelong. I put it over there. Just some of it, I wouldn't write it exactly like that, but it still gives some points when I'm going to explain the stuff later after this. Shiism, the religious veneration of Imam Ali salam and the family of Prophet, was born in Kufa in Iraq, which is true. I mean, whatever was before, everything started by Imam Ali to Kufa. Imam Ali, the fact walking the streets, go to the bazaars, go to the shop, that was the most important way to spread cheese, and people loved him. I mean, why the Yemenis tribe like Imam Ali? I should say that. Look, Yemenis tribes were converted to Islam in the time of Prophet Muhammad, many of these at the hand of Imam Ali. First, Prophet sent Khalid ibn Walid, the famous commanders. But he couldn't convert them, and he was ready to war. But then Prophet sent Imam Ali. Imam Ali discussed with them, talked with them. Without any war, they converted to Islam. And then actually why Umar had to put Imam Ali to the Shura. Why he didn't first put it? What he had to? Because of the futuhat, of the rise of these Yemeni tribes, they get power and they start to ask, like, for example, Malik Ashtar later on, other one, where is Ali? Where is Ali? And then Ammar also was essentially, again, Yemenis. Huzaifa Yaman was Yemenis. So, and these sometimes these Hamdan groups will become monotheistic Jewish belief before Islam, and so they were monotheistic, even not all idol worshipper. But the point is that because of the rise of Yemeni tribes in the Futuhat in Iran, the power balance changed, and Omar cannot completely ignore Imam Ali. To keeping the saving face, put Imam Ali to the Shura. But so this is the one reason. Okay. But then when Imam became caliph, then Mawali and then these tribes were there. He moved the capital to Kufa. Most of the Kufa were the Yemeni tribes. Look, Kufa is a garrison city. These are not regular people. These are commanders or members of unit of military which do the futuhat. These are elites. Basra, mostly southern Iran. Kufa, mostly northern Azerbaijan, central Iran. The two garrison cities which were built. So they're not ordinary people. But the effects is not affecting Iran or Mawali very seriously. They're not. Mawali are with Imam Ali. They love with Imam Ali. They are in the wars with Imam Ali. They are in the Siffin, which show that Imam Ali treat them equally favorably. But inside Iran, nothing seriously happened until a little bit, maybe we can say, revolt of Mukhtar. And the other one, which is more important, I want to discuss is another group coming out of the Mukhtar, which is movement. Mukhtar somehow supported Muhammad al Hanafiya, the other son of Imam Ali, the one I said his wife was from Hanafi tribe. And then he had a son Hashemiya. Some of the followers of Mukhtar take Muhammad al Hanafiya as Imam, then this Hashim, his son, as Imam. And these groups were very more active. And they have some less limitations. They were active, and then Abbasids get the control of their structure, and they were successful toppling Umayyads. So we can a little bit of time discuss that. Okay, now look, let's see. So the first situation, the first stage of Shiism is this is the what the Sunni historians or Arab historians call it first fitna is the civil war between Imam Ali and Muawiyah. This map is about 658 when the Egypt Malik Ashtar has become martyr. Muhammad Abu Bakr is martyred. So Egypt is now controlled of Muawiyah, and the green part is Imam Ali's red parts and Muawiyah, but Muawiyah getting a little bit upper hand by doing some skirmishes. And then you see Safain is here in the one is crossed in the red zone. So all these movement, these wars going with Imam Ali, seeing him, talking them, all started Shiism. And the Shiism affected everybody was in Kufa, Mawali, Iranis, and other places. So that's the start of Shiism. But the other event, which is I think more decisive, because I have to go through that. After Karbala, we have three. This is the second civil war. So the first one was the first civil war, which we know how ended up with the peace of Imam Hassan, Muawiyah get controlled, and then we have Karbala, Ashura. Then after this event of Karbala, we have three centers of power. One is Umayyad in Syria, or we can say four. Maybe I should have written four. Umayyads in Syria, then Kufa in Iraq is the center of Shia position. We have Tababin, Mukhtar, and Mawali. I will explain a little bit more. And then we have the Zubairis in Hijaz, which essentially representing Quraysh and aristocracy of Quraysh, or the one which kind of lines of the old caliphs. Look, this is the map. So you see the green one is the Mukhtar or Shia area. The blue one is the Beirut. So we have this area, and this middle part is a little bit switched, but mostly controlled with Zubairis. And the red one is Umayyads, and the yellow one is the Khawarij. Now, what is important here, Mukhtar really included Mawali in his uprising. And despite Arab nobles and other one come to him, why you treat these Mawalis, why you treat Iranians equal? And so, but Mukhtar really was kind of, for whatever reason, included Mawali, and Mawali was loyal to him. And that's the first time you can see Mawali, at least in Iraq, and maybe some outside Iraq were involved in the whole issue. And maybe we cannot call them all Shia in the sense of Shia, which we anticipate, but in one sense, at least they're politically Shia. That's important, because many of these, what I'm saying is that how the ground is plowed, or shows that we got ready to put the seeds of Shia, religious Shia. And then, after Karbala, truly the number of truly religious Shias are very few. And especially Tawabin, which is the rest of the Shias, they kind of went to penitent themselves, mostly martyred. Mukhtar also, all his group martyred. So really, after a few years, we end up very few number of people. Now, there is a rebellion here. I wanted to put it separately by putting it in order. This rebellion, as we will see with Ash'aris, this is important. This rebellion, so what happened is this: after Ashura and after Muharram, Karbala, you have continuous rebellions happen by Khawarij, by Shias, by some other groups. So Umayyads occasionally get stability, and then again rebellion starts. One of these big rebellions happens about 20 years after events in Karbala, and it's done by somebody called Abdul Rahman Muhammad ibn Ash'as al-Sikandi. He's not at all a good person. He's coming from a family which is which his father was responsible. His grandfather Ash'as maybe behind Abdul Muljam. He paid Abdul Muljam and Hotam. He has some hand to Imam Ali be assassinated. His daughter, Ash'as' daughter, maybe poisoned Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Muhammad, his son of Ash'as, had some hand in the Kufis coming against Imam Hussein. So this Abdul Rahman is the son of Muhammad, and there are narrations he must have some point he was a page or messenger when Muslim bin Aqil was captured, or regarding the children of Muslim Aqil, I forgot. So the family is not good at all. But the point is that because of Hajjaj, heavy-handed, very cruel, very bad way of treating all the Kufans, then again you got an alliance. The same alliance was initially behind Imam Ali. You know, the Ashraf of Kufa, not wholeheartedly, but they went behind Imam Ali. Mawali were the ordinary Kufa, religious Kufa, all were there. Again, they really were fed up. And Hajjaj also wants to get rid of these Kufans. You know, so he had sent them to a conquest which was very far away from Kufa. So that's the part which maybe I have, yeah. And they know that if send them to a mission which is impossible. They ask them to go conquest some part of Afghanistan in winter, which is impossible. And now we know many armies couldn't do that. And part of the region with Afghanistan, Pakistan, and they guess Hajjaj was get rid of them. So they rebel back. But the point is that the size of this army is huge. Even the number is exaggerated. All the other rebellions we talk is not as big. And this happened in Iran. This is the difference. Look, the part which they were sent to do all the fighting was this upper area of the like Samarkand, Bukhara, Kabul. I think the one they have to do is someone Zabalistan. So this army was fighting here, was expanding, those expansion which I showed to you early. This pink area was the new conquest area. So this army rebelled, and that affected Iran too. And among this army, there were very good people too. So it's a mixed army. You have Qurra, Kufa, Shia of Kufa, and some of these Ash'aris, which we'll see, were there. And this army rebelled against Umayyads and were successful. They captured Kufa, they captured Basra, huge army. Even Umayyads start to scare, things are done. But again, Hajjaj and the Syrians again get the upper hand. Look, to see the attitudes, and this is the problem even was why the Kufans were not so steadfast in the army of Imam Ali, was that they would say, we will not obey the enemy of God. They mean Hajjaj, or indirectly Umayyad Caliph, who like a pharaoh courses us to the farthest campaigns and keeps us here so that we can never see our wives and children. The gain is always his. If we are victorious, the conquered land is his. If we perish, then he is rid of us. So look, that's the situation. Even I don't have in this map Kufa, but look, they have to go fight farther in east of Iran, and then when their house and the children and wife was in Kufa. So this kind of gradually becomes impractical. And actually we see later on what happens, the new garrison city of Marv was founded. And then you see later on the time of Imam Reza Mahmud was here. This is the new frontier city, new garrison city, kind of Marv get the importance of the Kufa and Basra and they replace it. But at that time they have to come fight here, go back, and this wasn't a happy situation for them. Anyway, the rebellion of Ash'as really affected the Kufa, because when they lost the war, I want to save time, we can say the last line is says, as a result, the political power of the once mighty Kufa elites was soon broken. Look, Hajjaj built another city called Waset, which is still in Iraq between Basra and Kufa. And then this time, this is another garrison city, and this time brings Syrian troops and put them there, so kind of to control Kufa and Basra. And then now this time, Syrian soldiers were in the Iraq, and so it's really Iraqis. Imam Ali told them, you don't fight, you will be humiliated. And then Hajjaj was his prediction. And then one of the uprisings which are important, and that's for the Zaydis, which I'm not going to go much, is the Zaydi Ali ibn al-Hussein uprising. So this was much later than this Ash'as uprising, about 40 years later. It was near the end of the Umayyads, 740, 122. Umayyad finished 132. Again, like many of these uprisings, started with the Kufa, but again, the Kufas were not steadfast. Zayd ibn Ali ibn Hussein martyred very soon. But one thing happened which is related to us. His son Yahya escaped. He was able to escape. First go to Madain. Again, remember that Abdul Bay's tribe was Shia. Then from them to Ray. Then from there to Sarax and Khorasan. And then he had a feeling that Khorasan can get help, and kind of he got a help that people start to listen to how atrocities come to the Ahlul Bayt. They were not happy with the situation. Dissatisfaction Umayyad raised, and actually Abbasid use it very well. Abbasid by this time they're very active. They're very active, and then they always use the sorrows, the hardship, the injustice toward the Ahlul Bayt, and then they define themselves as Ahlul Bayt too. So they benefited a lot about the martyrdom of Zayd ibn Ali and Hussein. They benefited a lot, and also Yahya moving over there. So shows it's something things are getting ready, at least for some ideas, something to accepting some change. Or some acceptance of Ahlul Bayt or some form of Shiism in Khorasan. But at the end, Zaydis survived. Some Zaydis went to Yemen, and then Husis, which we have again, are Zaydis from there. So this uprising was not, you do something for God, God can expand it for you. And then the other thing is that, which I don't have time to go through, that the first dynasties, Shia dynasties in Iran are Zaydis, especially in Tabaristan and Gilan and the north part of Caspian, because the conquest couldn't go there, and then the Zaydis dynasties, they become Muslim. They were not Muslim people in because of the Alborz mountains, the very natural barriers, hard to get in. So they didn't become Muslim till later on, and they converted to Zaydi Shiism. So you see, that's the one. And the other one which is interesting, and I want again to mention it, near the end of the Umayyads, again 6 years before the end of them, another uprising happens, and this affected Iran much more. And this is this is one of the grandchildren of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. Actually, is Abdullah ibn Muawiyah ibn Abdullah ibn Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. That name Muawiyah, his name is a little bit how it happened is interesting. But that Abdullah ibn Ja'far ibn Abi Talib was the husband of Hazrat Zainab. His cousin of Hazrat Zainab, a husband of Hazrat Zainab. But he didn't came to Karbala. And I'm not sure, and I don't think so, practically 100% sure, that this Abdullah ibn Muawiyah is not from Hazrat Zainab, must be from another wife. But anyway, he uprised in Kufa again. But this time again, the governor, which is son of Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, the famous one, again really harshly, kind of fought him and defeated Abdullah Jafar. But his Zaydi branch, Zaydi group, helped him to escape to Iran. And then when he escaped to Iran, some Khawarij joined him. And then because Umayyads were under a civil war themselves, which is called Third Fitna, he was able to establish a government. Now, what we call this government, Shia, because some people say it's Ghulat Shia, extremist Shia, or exaggerating people, or he has some Shia tendencies. So he gets to control a large part of Persia, including Jabal. Jabal, when the Arabs say, means Zagros Mountains, Ahwaz, Fars, Kerman, and his capital first was Isfahan, and then Istakhmir, Shiraz. And so you can see the map here. So the Zagros Mountains, they call it Jabal, the Azerbaijan. Then he come more south, and then he moved from Kufa over there. But the more interesting thing, I think, he was defeated again. His government lasted for 2-3 years, but he was able to mint a coin. And now we have the coins. And then look, on the coins, you see La ilaha illallah, or Muhammad Rasulullah. But the most important thing, if you look at the coin and to the left and you try to read it, he has put the verse, yeah, so this is the kind of Shia statement. So he meant it over there. And then you see this is the spread of that idea, Hubb Ahlul Bayt. I mean, maybe not fully religious Shia, but it is some form of Shiism. Here you have it. So what we had is generally in the time of Umayyad's vast empire, not Arabic, not Islamic, majority neither Arab nor Muslim. Umayyads neither encourage people to convert to Islam, even discourage and place obstacles. I have discussed before why the Umayyad downfall. Again, they have tribalism, regionalism. There were only the government of conquest and expansion. I don't even talk for my friends in Milwaukee and also northwestern. So I'm not going. These having all of these make also Mawali dissatisfied too. All of these they make them anti-Umayyad. All of them make more toward Ahlul Bayt. So that's the opposition, negation of that. But this doesn't mean necessarily religious Shiism, political Shiism, but some of them maybe give them become religious Shia. Now, because I want to, I'm not going to Abbasid revolution. I've said it before. I'm going to main idea. I may go a little bit more for a few minutes, but I look. Just I want to tell you that you have to know when we say the conversion is not that Iranians are gradually increased, but the Mawali still are not huge numbers among this ashab of imams. At least this is the list who narrated from them. I'm sorry, it's Farsi, but you can see Imam Sajjad is 11% on Mawali. Imam Bagher is even reduced 5.3%. I'm not sure this is a Muslim strain, but Imam Sadiq 13.6%. Imam Kazan 7.3%, and then Imam Raza 14.5%. Imam Raza increases. So you have to keep in perspective. But now, what is the new part of the talk? I'll try to finish it in 15 minutes. Is this? I went a little bit ahead to tell you how the ground was ready or ploughed or somehow ready to the seed of Shiism be planted. But even the planting was a little bit different. The most important thing happened is this, that there was a group of, Qom was a city which was pre-Islamic town, or maybe it's village or town, which was conquered actually by that Abu Musa Ash'ari, the one which we have in the peace negotiation, between Imam Ali and Muawiyah, and in the time of Umar, and he conquered Isfahan or Zagros and something like that. And then 60 or 70 later after this conquest, about exactly the time that Abdurrahman Ash'as uprising, some of these his clan, this is accidental, but some of the members of his clan, Ash'ari clan, have participated in Ash'as uprising. And after the fate of Ash'as uprising, they knew they cannot go back to Kufa because Hajjaj will kill them or very harshly treat them. So they decide to escape to inside Iran, which happened. Many moved inside Iran. There were two brothers, Sa'd and Sa'd ibn Malik Ash'ari, which they decided to come to Qom. These two brothers were, when younger, involved their ancestor, not themselves, their ancestor was involved in Futuhat, so they knew something about this region of Qom. Maybe they have gone over there. I'm not sure exactly how they decided Qom. There were some stories they didn't want to go to Qom first. They want to go to Isfahan or somewhere Ray, but anyway, they went to Qom. The only thing I want to emphasize is this. Their ancestor was a Sahabi of Prophet Muhammad, their grandfather. And he must be very pro-Shi'i, because there is some narration historical left that Omar told Abu Musa Ash'ari, if you want to get sick advice, get advice from this Malik ibn Amir, Amir Ash'ari, the father, Amir Ash'ari, but don't appoint him to a position. And I think this means that he knew that he's very pro-Ali. So that Sahabi was. His son, one of the other, the Malik, and also even this, was very involved with not only the Imam Ali army, but also with the Qiyam al-Mukhtar. So much of this family were involved. They were with Mukhtar. They were, Mukhtar even put them one time governor of Kufa when he left out. So the family was a family, Shia family, because Professor Madloum says he thought they were not Shia. When they go, they become Shia. No, they were very Shia tendency in this family. And two of the sons, Saad and Sab, decided to move to Qom. And then they start to dominate the Qom for 3 centuries. And the Qom becomes really the center of Imami Shia Islam. And from there, essentially, Islam, great Shiism, gradually spread in Iran. There were other centers too. I'm not going for now to subdivide other one. But some of these moved to Ray, or Ray gets somebody with enhanced by these. Some of them we know moved to Kashan, or at least these were the supporting city. Look, like now we know United States, Dearborn is the place Shias are a lot. That's exactly was known. They knew everybody, from Florida, they come, okay, they say Dearborn. In Michigan was that Sharia law. In all those areas, a time of Abbasid and Umayyads, they know this poem is different. It's all Shia Imami. Now, and then these are very important. For example, one of these Muslim family of Saad moved. Saab also was important, but Saad moved. Then his son Abdullah became famous. I'm not going to go through that. One of his son Isa Abdullah, we know that in Imami Rajali books, known as the transmitter of Hadith Imam Jafar Sadiq, also Imam Hadith from Imam Musa Kazim, and then he asked some question Imam Reza. So you see, these guys are in Rome, but in contact with Imams. So it's like that. And then by the end of the second century of Islam, 8th century, Qom is solidly Shia. And unlike Kufi, solidly Imami. This is the important part, and I try to wrap it. This is the distinction. Look, Kufa is still Shia. Kufa is the heart of the Shia. And then remember, Imams are in Medina. So Imams are in Medina. This is the challenge. Imam Muslim are in Medina, or at least they're not Kufa. But the bulk of the followers, or the most are diehard followers, are in Kufa. So all these challenge is there. But now we have the new center in Qom. And then in Kufa, Shias were divided. Besides the Imamis, you have Zaydis, and then in Imamis, after the passing away of the martyrdom of sixth Imam, you have the splitting to the Ismailiyya and then Fatihya, and then after passing away martyrdom of the seventh Imam, you have Waqifa. So she's split out. And then the other thing was challenging for Shia, for Kufa, is the rise of Ghulat, activity of Ghulat. They were very passionate. They do the uprising, but they have very views mixed with Manikism, with Christianity, all mixture. Ismailis also have those kind of tendency. So Kufa is a very confusing place where lots of Shia trends, but in Qom things were different. Shias were united in the allegiance to the line of Imams of Orthodox to over Shiism. There is no mention of any Fatih, Waqifi deviation among the numerous Imami traditionists of the town. The leaders of Sharia controlled the town with tacit act. Okay, Abbasid, let them be there. Why? Because Abbasid were worried about Zaydis. Zaydis have the view that Imam could be any of Ahlul Bayt, descendants of Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein. He must have enough knowledge and he must uprise. And when you have enough knowledge, you have to uprise. If uprise with the sword, you have to support him. So they were not no pacifists. Everywhere they can, they uprise. Sometimes they say we don't have Imam. There is no guy which have the conditions. But if there is a condition, uprise and then go fight. And then because they were revolutionaries, governments were worried about them. Imamis, by the decision of Imam Muhammad Baqir and Imam Jafar Sadiq, get apparently a pacifist, quietist, focused on the religion. This means government were more relaxed about them. Okay, these guys are doing prayer, religion, so let them be. And then this is that they didn't let Ash'aris be there. But the Ash'aris increased in number, 6,000. Defeating them was hard. Qom was far away. Maybe that's the reason Qom, for whatever reason, they didn't need to conquer it. It wasn't on the way of anything. But it doesn't mean they were so nice to the government too. No, they didn't uprise. But they didn't pay taxes on time too. A couple of times because they didn't think money belonged to the government. Sometimes they killed even tax collectors. And then the tax should joined with Isfahan, sometimes then Isfahan, there are discussions like that. So they were not so nice. The other side, they were very supportive. Any Shia coming from anywhere need any help in the new cities, they really paid the money, they host them. I cannot go through all the details. And then you see the next generation visit Imam Reza, Imam Jawad. The next generation of these, the leader of the town was which was connected with the 10th Imam and 9th Imam. So you see this city was continuously in connection with the Imams. And then what they would do, they would do two things. The first thing, they were very against what they called Quluf. Okay, maybe they were a little bit extreme in this, but at least they were very protective. For example, the couple of times they find some people, they thought they switched to Quluf, or they're giving hadiths which are very exaggerating, they kick them out of the town. So then you see, these Ash'aris were no nonsense. They have the control of the town. All the town was with them. And then, so we see three names here. You know, for example, Al-Hassan al-Qurrazadeh, a traditionalist from Qom who become extremist toward the end of the life. They didn't transmit from him. They go against Sahl ibn Razi, which was Qali and liar, and expelled him from Qom to Ray. Or then the Kufan extremist Muhammad Ali ibn Sayrafi stayed with them in Qom, but then when they noticed he has extremist views, they kicked him out of the town. But the one which is very interesting, so show you the spirit of the thing, is that Ahmed ibn Muhammad Khalid Barghi. This is a very interesting story. A prolific Imam traditionist and author from Bargarut near Qom was also driven out of Qom by Ahmed ibn Muhammad Isa, one of these leaders of Ash'ari's later generations, you know, near the in the Ghaybat al-Sughra. Isa, because he transmitted from weak transmitters, because he was narrating hadith from everybody. But later, however, they permitted him to return and apologize to him. And when Al-Barghi died, the leader, the Ash'ari leader of the time, joined the funeral procession barefooted and bareheaded. This Ahmad Muhammad Khalid al-Barghi has the Mahasin al-Barghi. And Mahasin al-Barghi is one of the first extant book of Shiism we have. Unfortunately, many of early books of Shia Islam Imamiyya is lost. That we are not sure why. We are worse than even Kharijis, Zaydis, but this is his book, so that's the good part. Now, this is the two slides which this is the important part. Look, Qom thus become the chief centers of Orthodox Imami traditionism. In 3rd, 9th century, it was here that traditions amongst were transmitted in Kufa and elsewhere sifted and collected. So they collected, because they were very purist, they looked at the hadiths from Kufa and filtered them, examining. And then who is here around here, although Kholaini and, you know, Sheikh Saduq al-Ray, but close, they belong to Maktab Qom. Look, examination of the chains of transmission, the canonical connections of 12 Shia tradition will provide full evidence for this. In the most famous one, the Kitab al-Kafi, 80% are narrated from Qom. If you include Ray, it's 90%. Sheikh Saduq in his book, Man La Yasar al-Faqih, totally narrate from the narrators from Qom, because they trust these guys, they're careful. So this is the one we have. So the contribution of Qom to development to Shiism, both by sheltering the main center of Imami traditionist learning and by compromisingly adhering to the line of 12 Imam, thus is weighty. Without it, 12 Shiism might never have become the predominant form of Shiism. It must be noted, however, the Qom and its Imam scholarship in this period were dominated by Arabs, in particular the Ash'ariyah. We have to be careful. This, you know, always the stories have twists and turns. The great majorities of traditionists of Qom, especially the most prominent ones, are Arabs. In contrast to Kufa, but the majority of the Imami traditionists are Mawali. So in Iraq, in Kufa, most traditionally Mawali Irani. In Qom, which is Iran, most traditionists are Arab. So this kind of, I want to stop here. Look, it shows the story is, just one more thing. Look, the story is this. The spread of Shiism was slow at early stages, from one city to the other city. It speed up, that's the next stage. Although I have gone a little bit farther through the story, but by the coming of Imam Riza to Mashhad or to Marv and then martyrdom in Mashhad, and that's, you know, bring many Sadats of Ahlul Bayt to different parts of Iran. So that's also spread it out. I think, but essentially the spread is local. Even in time of Mughals, till Mughals came, we have centers of Shiism. Then bulk of the cities are Sunni. For example, Isfahan is ardently, very strongly Sunni at the rivalry with Qom, stuff like that. Then the thing changes later on, which is another level, which I'm not going to go through that tonight. Just I finished by this because essentially, you know, the symbol of Shiism, the spreader of Shiism in Islam, the protector of Shiism in Islam, Iran is Imam Riza. So we'll finish it with salawat khassa Imam Riza alayhi salam. اللهم صل على علي بن موسى المرتضى الإمام التقي النقي وحجتك على من فوق العرش ومن تحت الثرى الصديق الشهيد صلاة كثيرة تامة زاكية متواصلة متواترة مترادفة كأفضل ما صليت على أحد من أوليائك. Please recite the salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. دست شما در نکنه. من فکر میکنم ضبط رو میتونیم تموم بکنیم. که سخنرانی جدا باشه هست.
باشه حتما. بعد بخواید دوباره میتونید چیز کنید. من استاپ شیر کنم و شما ضبط می‌کنید اگه بخواید ضبط کنید.